Hi, I'm Neil Kearney, realtor in Boulder, Colorado, and I just have a few quick ideas on real estate negotiation in terms of how buyers and sellers and agents interact on a personal level and how that affects the negotiations. I was inspired on this line of thinking by a book that I read a long time ago, and I go back to once in a while. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. You've probably seen it because it came out about 21 years ago, but it has some really good basic ideas in terms of not only what you should do for yourself, but also how to interact with other people. And the concept that caught me, and I'm going to relate back to the real estate, is the idea of an emotional bank account. We all know what a bank account is we save money, put it in the account, so it builds up, so when we need money later, we have it. And so the same goes true for any relationship. So if you treat somebody with respect and honesty and setting your appointments and keeping your word and all those things that build trust, you're building that emotional bank account. And so once in a while, if you had done something wrong and would take away from that trust, your relationship probably would still survive. But if all you did was blow off appointments and talk behind their back and be late to things, then you probably wouldn't have a relationship for very long. So let's relate this back to real estate. So the buyer and the seller are one relationship that is really hard to manage because they don't actually ever get together. And so there is a lot of separation and hearsay and feeling that you get from just a few interactions that are not necessarily face-to-face. So here's the things that a buyer should do or keep in mind when relating to a seller on a real estate negotiation or transaction. So first, the initial offer. If the offer is way too low, so we're talking way below the neighborhood comparables without a sense of reality to it, so they're just kind of hoping that the seller is thinking along the same line and they'll get a home run deal, the seller's not going to like that. That takes away from, it does not build the emotional bank account between the two parties. If the buyer comes in and asks for items that are excluded, so whether there be appliances or that heirloom chandelier, if the buyer asks for those, it's going to take a withdrawal from the bank account that has no savings in it. Another thing is not being empathetic to the seller's situation in terms of their timing. They have somewhere to go, and if that timing doesn't work and the seller is pushing it or the buyer is pushing it, it really makes it tough to put that deal together. So those are some don'ts. You don't want to do all those things if you want to make a strong deal. Here's some things you can do as a buyer to strengthen that relationship or actually make deposits into that emotional bank account. You could write a personal letter. You want them to see you as a person. You want to have them connect with you on an emotional level. And the goal is really to get them to want to sell you their house. If they can picture you and your family in their house, then you really have a leg up on getting that transaction closed and the negotiation done in a win-win manner. So compliment them in the letter on their house. Say how you could see them you living there for a long time. Let them get to know you. So those are some small things that you can do that could help strengthen the relationship down the line and get you through to the closing table, which is the ultimate goal. So here's on the other side. So the seller, again, they don't have any direct relationship. So what can they do when the offer comes in? So what they can do, one thing that buyers really like is a prompt response. So whether acknowledge the offer has come in and respond to it in a timely fashion. That builds trust that when something gets negotiated, it's going to be answered. Another thing And what comes up often is just the first impressions. So when a seller keeps a really neat and tidy house, the yard is in good shape, it builds trust in the buyer, so the buyer doesn't have to worry about what the house is going to be left like at closing. And when the buyer is worried about the house, then they start putting in these provisions into the contract saying, here's where we want to see it. And the seller kind of goes, well, of course it's going to be like that. And that does not build trust. So another thing that comes up is at the condition of the house at the time of inspection. So prior to inspection, the seller gives a buyer the seller's property disclosure, which is the seller's opportunity to tell them everything they need to know about the house. And this is by law that they have to disclose any material defects. So my recommendation to sellers to build that emotional bank account is to fill out that form accurately, completely, and with lots of notes. And even at the back, add some pages if necessary to say, this is exactly what's happened while we have bought the house. A lot of times, buyers will read that and say, okay, I can leave with that. But if they find that same thing on their own during the inspection, they'll think it's a big deal, and they'll think that the sellers are trying to hide something from them. And that really breaks the relationship. So anyway, there's a couple ideas for the seller to make a good relationship. The final stakeholders in the real estate transaction are the agents. And so the agents are not principals to the transaction. They aren't buying the house or selling the house, but they are representing their clients, and they want to represent their clients in the best way possible. But a lot of times, if you take that too far and just pound, the deal doesn't come together. So what I like to see is an attitude of mutual respect, an attitude of open communication, an attitude of problem solving, and an attitude of courtesy when you're dealing with another agent. And so that's my stance in terms of how I want to portray our side of the transaction. And when I do that, I think I have a better chance of bringing that bank account up and having a better chance of actually having my side heard and having my client represented in the best possible way. So there's a few ideas on negotiation that you may not have heard, and I appreciate your time. And if you do need negotiation help in real estate in the Boulder, Colorado area, give me a call. Thanks.